frequently used terms when it comes to nutrients with indoor gardening or hydroponics that you may have heard in the gardening communities are EC, ppm, TDS, and pH. EC is the electrical conductivity, which measures the electrical current that is transported through your nutrients and flowing into the water. These measurements are usually read in decimal points like a 0.5, a 1.2, or a 2.0. Your tap water, well water, or whatever water you're using will have an EC reading prior to you putting nutrients in the water. So you always want to take that into consideration. ppm is particles per million, and this reading is usually in hundreds. So it'll be 100, 500, 1500, and there are a few variables that go into this reading. There are different mathematical equations, which are particles per million times a 500 and particles per million times a 700. These numbers will bring you to a decimal point, giving you also an EC. This is one reason why I highly recommend you using EC measurements, because ppm can have those different mathematical equations, and we all want to make sure we're speaking the same language. EC is also more globally recognized by the big indoor gardening and hydroponic growers. Now, TDS is a total dissolved soluble. This is another measurement that comes into play with your ppms equaling your EC. So ppms with the TDS, particles per million, total dissolved solids. Now, you heard me say at the beginning about pH. pH is the power of hydrogen. This might take you back to your science class when you were a little kid, and this is the acidity or the alkaline in the water. Now, why is pH so important when it comes to adding nutrients to your hydroponic systems? The pH is what allows the roots to uptake the nutrients. If your pH is too high for that plant, it can start to reject the nutrients. If the pH is too low, it can also hinder the nutrients getting into the roots. pHs on lettuces can really hinder the plant's growth and start to burn out your leaves, and you're not going to have a good tasting lettuce. The pH really affects your bitterness or your flavor of your lettuces. Your pH levels on most hydroponic plants are going to be around 5.8 to 6.2. Now, when considering different plants to grow together, like lettuces or kales or maybe tomatoes and eggplant, you're going to want to find yourself a good hydroponic chart or a nutrient chart for your plant. This is because if you have a plant, say a lettuce, who likes a low nutrient number or a low electrical conductivity number, and a tomato plant which goes into a flowering stage, sometimes needs a different form of food and takes it up to a higher level, the tomato plant is going to suffer from the low food you're feeding the lettuces. The lettuces will suffer from giving it too much food that you're trying to nutrient-rich the tomatoes. So when you're planting big, huge units, make sure you're getting some plants that can live happily together within a few decimal points of a nutrient chart. If you're using tabletop units, it's good to have one plant in that tabletop unit. If you're looking at 6 to 8 little pods in a tabletop, it's easy to have different units for different types of plants. So whether you're growing vertically or across a table, this is a really easy thing to achieve if you're paying attention to those nutrient charts. Now, where do you get a nutrient chart? You can simply Google them, but also a book that I wrote. This book is called My Hydroponic Journal, and it's not my hydroponic journal. I always say it's your hydroponic journal. I wrote this for you. Not only is it a journal to track all of your plants, as you can see the charts inside, but I do include one of the nutrient charts. As you can see here, there are numerous plants your basic starter plants, and a few fun ones, so you have that chart readily available to you whenever you need it. I receive lots of questions on different nutrients, different things that you're putting into your water, and what I recommend. I have used several different ones over the course of the 2 years that I've been doing this, and my favorite has to still be the general hydroponics. One reason why I like it is it's really easy to grab, either off of Amazon. There are different local stores that carry it. Don't overlook your farm stores, and if you're lucky like I am and you have a local hydroponics store, make sure you're checking them out as well to get these products. General Hydroponics has a Maxi Grow, and Maxi Grow is going to be just your starter one that you can use for any plants if they don't flower. Once you get into a flowering phase and you have things like tomatoes or maybe even sugar snap peas and green beans, when that flower starts coming out, then you will want to go to Maxi Bloom. Maxi Bloom is really easy to remember. It has the bloom, it has the flower. Just remember, start switching to this when those flowers need a little bit of a different nutrient-rich food. There are things like CalMag that you can add, and this will be added to your tomatoes or other plants that need more of a calcium-rich iron, magnesium supplement. Then when you're wanting to watch your root health or maybe some algae issues that you're having in your systems, you can use the hydrogen peroxide. This is a food grade. It is a 3%, and you can just squirt that right into your tank, and that will also take care of any algae issues. Also from General Hydroponics is your pH down. They also have a pH up, which is in the cabinet, but I tend to have to take my pH down because I use well water. Yes, I use well water and it's been totally fine, but I just have to really watch my pH levels, and so I go through quite a bit of this. If you're starting to use nutrients and you're noticing that your water is getting this really mucky, brown, thick, heavy color to it, check the ingredients and see if it has worm castings. Yes, you can absolutely use worm casting in indoor gardening, but it is going to darken the color of the water, give you kind of this muddy consistency, and make sure it doesn't get so thick muddy that you're going to be damaging your pumps, your filters, your tubing. There is always a risk in that. So if you're using something with worm castings, make sure that you are mixing it properly so you can save those pumps. Let's talk about these meters. Make sure you stay through the end because this is very important information. I see so many times people complaining about their readings. They're not getting good readings. They don't know if they're in the EC, if they're in ppm times 500 times 700 ppm with TDS, and it gets a little bit confusing. So these are two different meters that are just those general meters that are going to give you those readings. This one actually has the TDS and EC written right up on the top of it, and this one is a EC, pH, and has a temperature gauge, and there is one that is just a pH only. These meters are going to cost you somewhere between $15 up to maybe $25 or $30, and I hate to say it, but you get what you pay for. If you're just starting out and you want to do this, you want to learn how to get your nutrients and your pH levels balanced correctly, and you're just looking for a really easy meter, these are good starting points. But I have to say that if you're starting with something that is going to be frustrating, never work properly, have to be calibrated all the time, or something's flashing or it's not working properly, that is going to frustrate you to a point of maybe where you'll want to give up. And I don't want you to give up on this gardening journey. If you can dive into a more expensive meter, then I totally recommend anything from Blue Lab. This is actually just a pH meter, and I love this thing. Inside the cap, it has a spot that you can put your solution to keep it from having to be calibrated all the time, if you can see down inside that cap. And I have the little solution packets and jars inside my cabinet so I can keep the prongs wet. That is something else you want to do with any of these, is make sure you are keeping the prongs wet. These I am not using anymore, but when I did, I would have them just sitting in some solution from the water tank. And I think I just saw a fruit fly by my camera. I swear, you guys, I'm having a little bit of a fruit fly issue right now, but I have my catchy fly traps, so we're good. We're getting it under control, but something happened with the worm composter and some bad apples, so I apologize if a fruit fly flies in front of the camera. The other is my Blue Lab truncheon. Now this is for the nutrients, the ECs, and the ppm. What I really like is that it has all of them right on the bar. So wherever the light is blinking, that's going to tell you. So it's got your conversion chart all figured out for you. So if it's a 1.6 EC, you can just go right across and you have an 800 ppm, which is the ppm 500 with the TDS. Or if you go over more to the ppm 700, 1120 ppm. So this kind of really gives you that way to learn all the different ones, and it's just right there, easy for you to read. I know all of this can be very confusing right out of the gate if you're learning how to do indoor gardening. I do recommend, if you're worried about it, you can start with these tabletop systems, the Aero Gardens, the Hortezes, the Harvest, which is going to be coming out soon for iHarvest. Those tabletop units are just set it and forget it. When it comes to the nutrients, everything is balanced and all good and ready for you. If you want to learn how to do more of the indoor gardening, where it is the big, huge hydroponic systems and you're controlling your nutrients, then I highly recommend getting yourself a really good meter. And don't forget to watch these other videos over here in this playlist to learn more about indoor gardening. Also subscribe to become a member of the Lettuce Head community, and we'll see you on the next episode.